Okay, so I hope everyone is well and your families are healthy. This is just a short video on using the balance method for solving an equation. So solving an equation, to remind everyone, is when you get an unknown on one side of the equal sign on its own, so you know what its value is. We talked about how if you're trying to work out how much you weigh and you're wearing a big heavy coat and a backpack, what you've got to do is you've got to take the coat and the backpack and the coat off and just weigh yourself. So let me just do a little example to begin with. So if you've got something like x equals 2, well, that's an equation because you've got your equal sign there, and that's really easy because in the balance method you've got something that looks like this, and you've got a can which will represent what x is, and we'll have 2 stones there. So looking at this picture, you can see that the can is the same way as 2 stones. Okay, so that's not difficult at all. So we can try and make it slightly harder by having a can x minus 3 equaling 2. So if we're going to do this with the balance method, okay, we've got 2 up here, and this is the can, and we talked about how you can represent this minus 3 by having 3 stones underneath the balance bar like that. So this is a picture of this equation, x minus 3 equals 2, and what you would need to do is try and get x on its own. So in order to get x on its own, you've got to get rid of these 3 stones that are underneath the balance beam. The way you're going to do that is put 3 stones above, okay, because one of the rules is what if you have the same thing above and below the balance beam, then they cancel out. But remember, because it's a balance beam, anything you do to one side you have to do to the other side. So we've just added 3 stones on the top, on the left hand side, so we need to add 3 more stones on the top on the right hand side. Okay, so now what's going to happen is these 3 stones will go with those 3 stones, because we've got plus 3 stones minus 3 stones, which is 0 stones, and you get the can on one side, and on the other side you've got 5. So the solution would be x equals 5, because what you've done is you've got x minus 3 plus 3 equals 2 plus 3, and minus 3 and plus 3 is 0. So a different question. So say you've got 2x equals 6. So what would that look like? Well, on our balance beam you're going to have 6 stones here, and on the left hand side you've got 2 cans. Okay, so the first time that you do this, most people make the mistake of trying to take away one of these cans by putting a can on the bottom there. But remember, if you put a can on the left hand side below the balance beam, then so that both sides remain balanced, you would have to do the same thing on the right hand side. And this looks great because these 2 cans go, but there isn't a can on this side here that you can cancel that with. So we wouldn't do it this way. Okay, we will set up the equation again and try and do it in a slightly different way. Okay, I'm going to draw my 6 stones like this time, and I'm going to draw my 2 cans like that. So the other way of getting a can on its own is to halve the left hand side, and if we halve the left hand side, we need to halve the right hand side. And if we do that, we get left with 1 can on this side and 3 stones on that side. So the algebra, what's actually happening is you would have 2x equals 6, but we would halve that side and we would halve that side. Okay, and then that leaves us with x equaling 3. Alright, so then some of the questions combine both multiple cans and adding and subtracting. So let's see if we can do that for another example.